In what may become one of the most talked about courtroom decisions in recent celebrity legal history, the trial against Sean Diddy Combs is now barreling toward its final chapter. After nearly a month of testimony, spanning 28 full days and 34 different witnesses, the prosecution is preparing to deliver its closing argument on Thursday. The defense will follow on Friday. That means the jury, after being inundated with testimony, exhibits, and high-stakes accusations, could begin deliberating as early as late Friday, but more realistically Monday. However, there's a twist, one that could influence not just the pace of deliberations, but possibly the outcome itself. The prosecution filed a new letter to the judge today, requesting a simplification of the jury instructions. And while that might sound like procedural minutiae, it's anything but. It's a strategic recalibration. They're asking the court to remove references to attempted kidnapping and attempted arson from the instructions, altogether two components, tied closely to the Kid Cudi case and several of the alleged acts within the larger racketeering claim. Why are they doing this? Simple, they're saying the word attempted doesn't apply. According to them, these weren't failed efforts, these were successful crimes. So there's no need to clutter the jury's minds with legal definitions of attempts when the prosecution is contending the acts were fully executed. And when you're dealing with a case that includes counts like arson, kidnapping, aiding and abetting sex trafficking, and the catch-all RICO charge, clarity becomes everything. The prosecution wants jurors focused, not confused. Now, let's be honest, jury instructions can make or break a trial. Too complicated and a juror may miss a key element. Too vague, and someone might interpret the law in a way that favors acquittal or even a mistrial. The prosecution seems to understand that risk and is actively trying to avoid a scenario where the jury gets lost in a thicket of overlapping legal theories. But this isn't just about legal strategies. It's also about timing. Because the calendar just added more pressure to an already intense situation. Let's take a closer look. Friday is June 30th. Monday, July 3rd is technically a workday, but Tuesday is a court holiday, and Wednesday is July 4th. That means by court calendar rules, the courthouse is officially closed Thursday and Friday next week. In effect, if the jury doesn't reach a verdict by Wednesday, they'll be forced to return after the holiday. Now, here's where human nature enters the courtroom. No matter how serious the case or how shocking the allegations, jurors are human. They've given up more than a month of their lives. They've already worked through Memorial Day, many are probably tired. Some are likely frustrated, and others may simply want their lives back. With the promise of a 4-day holiday weekend, the temptation to wrap this up quickly becomes very real. In fact, as legal analysts pointed out, it's not uncommon for juries to suddenly reach agreement just before a holiday break. There is a kind of social pressure that bubbles beneath the surface. I've got family plans, fireworks, barbecues. I don't want to come back here next week. That urgency can create something close to consensus, even when the case is complex. And if you're wondering whether judges are sympathetic to that kind of pressure, the answer is usually not. Judge Subramanian, who has been overseeing the Diddy trial from day one, is unlikely to declare a mistrial after just 2 or 3 days of deliberations. If the jury comes in next Wednesday claiming to be deadlocked, he may well send them right back into the deliberation room. And he has the authority to order skeletal court staff to report on a holiday and open the jury room just for them. So no one's getting out of this that easily. All this means that the jury might feel compelled to reach a verdict sooner than they otherwise would have, whether consciously or unconsciously. They may speed up the process not because they've reached perfect clarity, but because they want closure before the fireworks begin. Now, here's where the stakes get even higher. Remember, this case isn't just about 1 or 2 charges. The most serious count is a RICO charge, which essentially alleges that Diddy operated a criminal enterprise. That's the same type of charge famously used to take down mafia bosses. It's sweeping, it's layered, and it's loaded with underlying criminal acts from sex trafficking to violence to financial corruption. If convicted on that count, the implications are enormous, both legally and for Diddy's legacy. But what complicates things is that jurors can believe some underlying crimes occurred and not others. So they might think he was guilty of arson or kidnapping, but not racketeering. Or vice versa. It's a massive puzzle, one that requires incredible attention to detail, legal precision, and emotional discipline. And if public opinion is any clue, there's no consensus out there either. Some people believe he's guilty of everything. Others think the prosecution overreached. Some are convinced the RICO charge won't stick, but the individual acts like the alleged kidnapping of Kid Cudi might land. Bottom line, it's anyone's guess. There's also an emotional weight to this trial. It's not just a list of charges. It's stories of trauma, betrayal, fear, and power. Every piece of testimony, every image presented in court adds to the pressure on these 12 jurors. And while the legal teams argue technicalities, what really hangs in the balance are lives, those of the victims, the accused, and everyone in their orbit. The next few days are going to be intense. On Thursday, the prosecution lays out their final narrative, their last chance to convince the jury beyond a reasonable doubt. On Friday, the defense will try to dismantle it. Then the judge steps in, delivering hours of jury instructions, now simplified but still filled with enormous legal weight. Then it's in the jury's hands, 12 people, 4 charges. One holiday weekend approaching fast. The pressure will be real. The stakes immense, and the outcome still uncertain. Will they deliver a verdict by Wednesday? Or will they carry the burden of this decision beyond the 4th of July into what could be another long week of deliberation? You'll be watching every step, because in the courtroom and outside of it, everything is on the line.